What happens when you rise above the herd? Are you punished for being unconventional?
When you rise above the herd, look, you rise above the herd, you're going to get your head cut off, and always, you do something different. I mean, take yourself, Luke, with your own personal experience. You've done things that were unique, and I think you've probably lost friends, family. There's been a tremendous loss to you to come to a point where you had to go, right? I'm sure, whatever, you haven't told me this, but I'm sure it's true. And it's similar to my experience in life, that when you make decisions that aren't popular, or conventional, let's say, people don't like it and they don't understand, right? I had a very interesting, if I could share this with you. I had a friend in high school. His name was Doug Bjorklund, and we had another friend, David Haney, and we were friends. And so I've been gone a very long time. So one day on Facebook, somebody comes up, some name comes up, Bjorklund, and I'm Doug Bjorklund's wife, and we get back and forth. And Doug was a friend of yours, and he often spoke about you, and and et cetera, et cetera. And so every few days we exchange emails, and so then we now live in Port Alberni. That's nice. Where do you live? And I typed back, Taiwan. And I got no response, Luke, for days, maybe 2 weeks. And then I got an email back, oh, that's nice. Haven't heard from them since. Right? So.
Why is nonconformity reviled? Does this inhibit the individual from doing their best? Why is nothing ever free?
I think that's probably not real for most people. Most people, as we progress through life, there's a certain emphasis that comes at the moment. Like when your children are younger, the emphasis is on your children. When you're single, the emphasis is on you finding a mate, and when you're older, emphasis perhaps on your health or what have you. So hard to find that balance, but yes, it can be done, of course. I do think that the internet now, at least I read, affords people a balanced lifestyle. Like you can make an income from the internet somehow. I'm not quite sure how, but people do. And they seem to be able to live the lifestyle they want to live, and yet they still have a job and they have income. But there's a downside in that a lot of these people travel too much and they're lonely, so I read. So nothing is free, Luke, unfortunately.
What happens if you do not fulfill your life mission?
Let's take the example, I think the very good example is the prison guards in Scotland. The average prison guard in Scotland, when he retires, lives 18 months. Average. And studies don't know why. It's not that bad an environment, it's not that stressful, and why? And I've read, and I believe this to be true, that it's just similar to the loggers. If you're doing something that's not really a positive, if you're doing work that's not positive work, if I can put it that way, I think there is almost a cancer from Gaia that descends upon you, right? So that's your soul. If you're not paying attention to your mission, which you're not if you're doing a conventional job, then you suffer over time, unless you're extremely lucky. And some people are, Luke. Some people have retired and they've lived wonderful lives. I don't know that many that aren't bored. I know some retired teachers here, and they're back to work. I have a friend that lives abroad, and she's back to work. Hey.
What is mindfulness?
Well, mindfulness is to totally be in the present, right? You are here right now. So you're asking yourself questions like, where am I? I'm here. How do I feel? What's going on? Et cetera, et cetera. And the past, the decisions you've made yesterday, for instance, have no value, right? They have implication, but no value. And of course, the decisions you're making for the future have not yet been vetted, so to speak. So I think the path that you've taken, whatever it is, mindfulness allows you to reflect, plan your strategies, plan your thoughts. Because, I mean, let's be fair, there are paths that you take that are just wrong for you. And how are you going to discover that they're wrong without reflecting? I mean, you do have an ego that says, I am right, but maybe you are wrong. Maybe you shouldn't be a race car driver or a boxer or who knows what, right? Maybe that's just not for you. You have to be there in a state to really realize that that's correct.
Do you believe that you are a part of the universe?
Let us say, for instance, that you have a mission, whatever that may or may not be, you believe. And that's making you more and more isolated, right? And you have mindfulness and you reflect on this, etc., etc. And then there will come a point that you realize that this is the correct mission for you, truly. And then you realize that you're part of the whole corpus of the universe, so your mission is just a piece of something. And maybe it'll reflect back on people. I'll give you an example of what I'm describing. Dr. Frankl, they picked him up, I think, in 1942. Nazis came to his home. They put him and his wife and his brother and his sister-in-law, his mom and his dad in this death camp, Auschwitz, I think. At least once in Auschwitz, whatever. And everybody dies but him. So the war is over. So he goes back to the hospital, finds out his position is still available. So he's back to the same director of the Viennese hospital that he was 3 years ago. And you get people walking by and go, Doctor, haven't seen you in a while. How are you? Stuff that would drive you insane. What do you mean you don't know what happened? Where was I? I was in a death camp, for God's sakes. That's where I was. But I don't think he probably said that. So at that point you realize you're isolated in your mission, but you are a part of the collective, right? You are a part of the universe, right? I mean, without Frankl's experience in all those horrible camps, I mean, he never would have written, Man's Search for Meaning, for instance, right? It wouldn't have been brought out, because it really is a powerful diary and his ontology that he does, right?
Do you believe that the internet will help humanity?
I think the internet could do many things if it's used properly, Luke. So yes, I think so, yeah, for sure. I mean, every week, gosh, I speak to a woman in Poland, I speak to a woman in Belgium, and I speak to my friend in Canada. That's all through Skype, right? So obviously, and in class, it translates my lectures into Chinese, if necessary, right? On and on and on. So sure, I'm a part of the universe, but it can also be a tremendous disappointment, right? So it's a double-sided knife in a way, right?
What is the common good?
Limited travel experience, which is perhaps large for some people, small for others, but in my travel experience, I've met the people I have met, airport workers, people on the street, et cetera, for the most part, they're all kind, right? Whatever their political agenda is, their religion, whatever, and I think that's, in a certain sense of the word, what we're shown through travel and everything else, that we're just a large part of the collective. We're part of the common good, right, ultimately. So I think the message, is that, what's the old story? We're diverse, but we're the same, But I do think, however, the great failing, Luke, that I try to comment on all the time, is that we do not think critically, guaranteed. And I think we're encouraged not to think critically almost, so people can go, yes. Enrollment in the British Army in 1914, they campaigned heavily. In 1915 it spiked. And there's thousands of people that went that weren't of legal age. I watched a documentary the other day. They were 15, 16. You had to be 19 to go, but they were 15, 16. But they wanted the adventure of going, and the recruiters just looked the other way, so to speak, most times, right? And everything was fine for the British Army until July 1916, when they fought the first major battle, Battle of the Somme. And they killed thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of kids, and there's a classic example of misplaced perception. I mean, if somebody told you, you're serve king and country, but we're going to kill you, really kill you. I mean, I wonder how many people would have said, I'm going, right? But everyone was fooled. So the internet now, I think, will preclude some of that, I'm hoping.